Guys, and welcome back to another part of my Warframe tutorial. Um, this time I'm gonna briefly go into damage and what it does, and also show some enemies that you will encounter along your missions, and show you where the basic weak points are. Most of the time it's the head. So, we just continue with our basic loadout that we had before, like our hack, without any mods, and then our purist, like our basic pistols, and our basic melee weapon. So if you have a synthesis scanner from one of the quests that you get from Cephalon Zimaris, you can scan enemies, like this Frontier Heavy Gunner. That's the heavy gunner that you encounter on Earth. And when you have an upgrade for it, you will see the weaknesses, but that's not really important. Grenier generally are weak to corrosive because Grenier have ferrite armor, except for one guy. And also they have cloned flesh, so corrosive is very effective. But now there's a problem. How do you get corrosive? That's where you need to go back to your modding and use the mods that you probably got from like one of your missions, or at least one mod you get from a junction. So go in here, and like I said, no mods on it. To get corrosion you need electricity, check, and also you need toxin. That's also here. So now you immediately have corrosive. Not strong corrosive damage, but hey, it's there. So now your weapon will do the upper damage, like the 340, plus the 105, plus the 78, plus an additional 157. And when it comes to damage calculation, that can get a little bit difficult and hard to understand, so I'm trying to make it as compact as I can and as easy to understand as I can. So if we go back to our heavy gunner over here and we scan his weaknesses again. Ferrite armor. You see the green stuff, the corrosive symbol with the 3+, the puncture symbol, that is the puncture symbol, with 2+, and the toxin symbol with 1+, and then you see some red stuff like a slash and blast. Same goes for the cloned flesh. You have viral, which is symbolized by those viral things, viral cells. You have fire and you have slash in green, and gas, which is the bottom red one, and impact, which is the hammer. So now you basically know what damage you need, but what does that mean for your weapon? So let's go back to our weapon here. You have 340 puncture damage, and when we remember before, we had 2 pluses at the weakness of the enemy. That means he's gonna take 50% more damage. So you can basically just be like, well, that's 1.5 times. We have had corrosive with 3 pluses, which means 75% more damage from that. So that times 1.75. The slash is getting reduced a little bit. The impact doesn't really care at all. But only with corrosive, just on its own, you're gonna do more damage. 75% more. And that means you can do quite a lot of damage to this basic enemy. But he has 250 armor, at base, which is quite a lot of armor if you compare it to like one of those melee guys. If I actually see one, like I apparently do not have a butcher right here. Oh, I actually do. That's a butcher. You can see him because he has one of those melee weapons. He has 5 base armor, which is almost nothing. It's like a thin layer of cloth just protecting him from like the wind. The heavy gunner is a heavy unit, as the name implies. He has a lot of armor, so your bullets will do low damage. So if I shoot him, I do 10 damage, and if I shoot the butcher, I'm probably gonna do more damage. 23. That's because armor reduces the amount of damage the enemy takes. You can either just use that and shoot him with the shotgun, and by the way, if you shoot the head, he's gonna take a lot more damage, but I don't wanna one-shot him. So you do a lot more damage, and then you just can shoot him a few times, and eventually, since you have corrosive on your weapon, you maybe get a corrosive proc. I'll get to that. But now you basically understand how damage works, how weaknesses work, because all of those have rip. That was a fail. Have ferrite armor. Him. Oh, he has alloy armor. Okay, that's yeah. The Arid Eviscerator has the mitre that I showed in the last part, like the saw blade launcher, and he has alloy armor, which is a different armor type, and also has different weaknesses. Here you need radiation damage, and radiation is made by combining electricity with fire, just so you know. So he takes a lot more damage from that, but isn't any stronger against corrosion, because corrosion isn't listed here. Weak against radiation, cold, and puncture, the thing that we have on our shotgun, and strong against slash, like very strong against slash, very strong against electricity, and also very strong against magnetic. Magnetic is cold and electricity. His health, like his health under the armor, is weak against viral, which is done by combining cold and toxin. Weak against fire, weak against slash, but strong against gas. Gas is done by mixing toxin and fire. And strong against impact. So that's his health. All of the Grenier, I guess all of them have cloned flash, so they should all be weak against radiation, against viral. Those are mostly Corpus, we will get to them. He also has cloned flash, but he's like one of the weakest enemies. You should be able to just kill him with about anything. And another unit that you will probably encounter is the Drag Master. The Drag Master has the same weaknesses as like all the other Grenier units, but he has more health. So if I shoot him with my pistol, he's gonna take more damage because he has less armor, but still doesn't die as fast as like the Butcher because he has more health. And the Drag Master spawns Drags, which are like those ugly things, like whatever that is. It's, I guess it's supposed to be a dog, boar, whatever, and it has not clone flesh but flesh, which is like a a little bit weaker or a little bit strong against the viral, but viral is still effective, toxin is effective, slash is effective, but impact and gas are not. I will get into detail of what status effects do later. So just you can basically, if you go into mission against Grenier, never be wrong with viral and corrosion and impact. But mostly just corrosion, that's what everyone uses. But let's say you don't always do Grenier missions, which I can very much understand, and you come across Corpus units, like the Shockwave Maw, which is the orange one. They do not have armor, but they have shields. And to be honest, a lot of shields protecting their health. Sometimes, for some units, even more shields than they actually have health, like the Sniper Crewman, or the Nullifier Crewman, or most of the robots. Like, only some units have more health than shields. And here you will need magnetic to reduce to do more damage to the shields. But big but after those shields are gone, you don't get the damage boost from your magnetic anymore. Then it'll just come down to his robotic health, where you need electricity, puncture, or radiation. So I recommend, because Corpus are not as strong and their shield doesn't immediately regenerate, you can kind of like do that. Does their shield even regenerate at all? On some enemies it does. Now you're through to his shields, and if you had magnetic on your weapon, you will now not deal damage anymore, or not as much damage. He is regenerating some shields. I see it flickering. And by the way, the part that I shot at, like this mantis-looking jaw, which you see close up, it looks very intimidating, but it's only their head and also their main weak point. Some people may tell you that that little backpack is their weak point. Yes, it kind of is, but that counts as their head, and that takes the most damage. So you just shoot his head. And then get through his health. And you already see 1 or 2 status effects being applied, but I'll get to that. So for Corpus, you don't really need to do anything, you just shred right through them because they do not have armor, so they do not have damage reduction. You have a Nullifier Crewman, which is a crewman which has a big ass backpack, and the backpack has a drone up top. If I can shoot the drone, there we go. He raises the drone up into the sky and forms a bubble, which is called the Nullifier Bubble. And that will interrupt all your Warframe abilities. So if I have Iron Skin active, he will disable that. If I have my Roar active, he will disable that. One of the most annoying enemies in the game. So yeah, a little bit annoying. But you can just use a fast firing weapon against the bubble, and when the bubble is gone, you can just either keep shooting at his head, because he is very weak. He just relies on his shield too heavily. And also I'm gonna wait for my ability to run out, because I don't want the damage boost for showing stuff, so now it's gone. Then you have Corpus Techs, which are those beefy boys. They are quite strong, but still no problem for your hack, so you can just mow through everyone. That's why I recommend the heck. It's a heck of a gun and it does a lot of damage, like really a lot. Yeah, he lasted longer because I have corrosion on my weapon, and he is strong against that, I guess. So you just mow through all of them. By the way, the Helion has a backpack, which you have seen the thing on his back. Like, if you imagine something here, like a backpack, which he uses to fly. You can shoot the backpack and make it explode, and do a little bit of damage to him, and make him go to ground battle mode. And you have the Eviscerator, which has a different armor type, but comparably low health, so you shouldn't have too much problem fighting against them. And something that I forgot in my last tutorial, if you have the Lex, which is like a one-handed heavy pistol, it's like black or blue. This weapon. Yeah, very complicated names and mostly long names, but really good weapons. That is the Lex. It is a powerful one-handed pistol. It's like a Desert Eagle if you compare it to other shooters. Heavy damage, heavy recoil, low magazine size. But it should kill most of the stuff that you aim at in like one single shot, maybe two. I have the Prime variant, which has some benefits, like a tiny bit more damage and different stats, but mostly it's still the same weapon. And if you pick that, by the way, you can buy the Lex for credits. If you go, yeah, you cannot buy it in a mission, of course, because that thing counts as a mission, but normally if you look for the Lex, you will have a buy for like 10,000 or 50,000 plat. No, not plat. Credits. Credits. And it's a Mastery 3 weapon, so you can get access to it very, very soon. And it's also very strong. So if you just have it completely unmodded, because I removed all the mods, you don't need too many shots to kill an enemy. Mostly if you get a crit. Crits later on. Yeah, you can also remove the helmet off of the enemies, which gives you an achievement. Not really doing anything when it comes to like damage or anything. So your Lex is your standard weapon, and you see the heavy gunner takes a lot more hits because he has a lot more armor, of course. But everything else still dies fairly quick. The Drak has a lot of health. Butcher, no problem. Lancer, not really a problem. Trooper, hiding behind the heavy gunner, no problem. And the heavy gunner also goes down after a few magazines. Mostly if you put like any mod on, that will just really increase the effectiveness of your weaponry by a lot. So you just shoot all of them and they should die fairly quick. Corpus techs are kind of tanky. And some of the enemies, I simulated them with level 20 because that's like the basic that you will meet in missions. So let's just spawn some new ones. And Yeah, that's the basic mechanics of how damage works and how damage amplifiers work. So let's get to status effects, or I think I'm gonna split it up to status effects in the next one because status effects is like a lot. So now you have your basic weaponry, you know how to mod stuff for different factions, and if you come across infested, which are those creatures like this dude or stuff like that, you shouldn't have too much problem because P has low health and everything, so just mow him down with whatever weapon you have or just use your melee. That's the one. Or just, yeah. So, thanks for watching and see you in when I do the next part of it, which is about status effects. Very important because of the mechanics that hardly anyone understands uh, according to what I see in missions. So, see you guys then.